All right, this is the third week of class, and we're going to be talking about choosing and implementing curriculum and also some program planning issues as well. So why should we really be concerned about curriculum or management? We probably have a ton of roles and responsibilities because really when we talk about this class, we started off at a very macro level, like who are you and how are you as a leader? Last week was our mission statement, our vision for education, and our vision for including everyone. So take that mission statement that you had, and we're going to take that philosophy and vision, and that's going to be translated partially in the curriculum that we choose and how we have staff implement curriculum in the classroom. You're, as a director, going to be assessing and planning for curriculum. So it's very easy for staff to have curriculum chosen for them. I've seen it a lot. People typically choose creative curriculum, which I think is a very good curriculum method, but if you're not doing it, it's not very good. If those books are just sitting on the shelf and you're not actually lesson planning, even if you say you're Waldorf, if you're not actually implementing any Waldorf or Reggio or project or whatever it is, curriculum into your classroom, then you're nothing. You're just kind of there, you exist, you don't have a plan, you're not doing it. A lot of this does come down to the teachers, and that's why we have so many of the classes here at Palomar and in other child development departments focusing on the classroom and curriculum program part of it. So you need to know that your staff, and you need to train your staff in order to continue curriculum. But also at the same time, you have some ownership, you have a lot of ownership, and you have a lot of oversight in how you have your staff. How you do that is through your policies and procedures, your budget, and then your support, planning, and implementing as well. And you'll do that in multiple ways. I just want to start with the idea of pedagogy, which it's kind of, like I said, it's like this overarching concept. It's kind of the idea of curriculum and the content of what is being taught. So that's typically sometimes decided for you. Head Start, the military education system, the YMCA, Discovery Isle, any of those larger organizations have kind of already given you the curriculum or the area that you're headed into. But when we look at methodology or the way that the teaching is done and then the techniques for socializing children, that is very much within our control, and those are the things that we're really, really concerned with. You probably, if I was face-to-face with you guys, I could ask all of you, and in a classroom of 42, 43 people, you probably know which curriculum you want, curriculum area you're going to go into. So that's not the issue for us. It's either been chosen or we know the direction we want to. We really need to look at methodology or the way that the teaching is done and then the way that we socialize our children. I just like this video. It's an Irish video, so she has this gorgeous Irish accent. It can be a little bit hard, but there are closed captioning at the end. It's a little bit hard to hear her at times. But she is specifically talking about pedagogy, so how we teach, how we lead, and how we teach, and specifically in our field of early childhood education. This might be a really great video for you to look back at or to show at a staff. So most of all of our curriculum should be developmentally appropriate. So even if we are an academically focused program, we are still going to accept that 2-year-olds don't know how to read, 2-year-olds don't think abstractly, 2-year-olds are completely egotistical, you know, stuff like ideas like that. We're not going to expect 2-year-olds to act like 7-year-olds. So all programs have to be developmentally appropriate, and it's something that you will have to put at the center and the core of your programs. In order to be responsive and relevant to the children that you work with, choosing a curriculum and making sure that your staff know what developmentally appropriate care and curriculum looks like. So for a new staff member or somebody who's maybe making a switch from school age to infants or infants to school age, might need to go back and do a little bit of work on what we developmentally expect from those age groups. Or in my case, I was infant toddler teacher, preschool teacher, and then I became an infant toddler director. So I only hung out with like 0-year-old infants, 1-year-olds, and 2-year-olds for a while. And then I went to a large program that did 0 to 10, And I remember walking into the school age classroom. They're so big. Like I really had to go back to my school age books, and I needed to do a lot of Googling because all the things that I had done were so much focused for a younger age that when I got to the older ones, I was like, we can do so many more things. So that is the way that you kind of support staff, and that's usually how I get their interest, is all those fun, cool things that you can do with your age group, and then cycling that back to that developmentally appropriate practice. We do these fun things like finger painting because 2-year-olds don't have very good fine motor skills. It's a little bit of teaching and with a little bit of fun. But designing curriculum for early childhood education environment is an ongoing task, and it's going to change as your goals and objectives change. So it's not something you can say, here's creative curriculum, implement it, and walk out of the classroom and everybody's done. You're always in the classroom. You're always making sure that on Fridays, if that's lesson plan, you're always talking with your staff about what they need. You're always talking about, is this relevant? Should we be making ice cream in, January? That seems a little cold. And then they tell you, oh, we're going to do this whole thing on freezing and science and water and how it melts. And I'm like, oh, no, I totally get it. I love that idea. But before I was questioning ice cream in January. So that type of stuff, that type of communication with staff in an ongoing basis is what keeps the curriculum going and going well. What's my role? What's my responsibility? I have to assess their ability to understand and teach the curriculum. I might have hired somebody brand new. They're 22, they just graduated from Cal State. Fantastic. Have they ever been in the classroom long-term, 40 hours a week implementing curriculum? No. Then I'm going to make sure that they are paired with somebody, they have a mentor teacher, and I'm there quite a bit on Fridays, making sure that Monday morning when it hits, they have really good curriculum. I need to communicate this to other adults. So my funding bodies, my board, people who come in and assess me, licensing, and then very, very specifically, my parents and families. Once again, making sure we don't have that mismatch. If they want academic and I'm not, they need to know that up front. Oh, I don't want to enroll in my program. And also, parents and families, this is why your child is going to be messy. This is what you can do to make sure that your child isn't messy. This is the type of shoes that I need. These are the types of hats that they're going to wear. Things like that. And then why is it important? I mean, I really think that we have this awesome opportunity to grab them while you're very young. We know involvement in education really pays dividends as children get older. So if we can get them when they're 2 and 3 and we can get them in the door and we can have them understand how important education is, that's really going to help the child when they get into elementary school and the parents understand about curriculum and they understand about education and they want to be part of their child's education. We have that role as kind of early educators. Then I also need to provide institutional support. I need to give them time for lesson planning. Always a big one, at least in my programs, that was an issue. How do I get them all time together to do it? How do I give them the space? Maybe I don't have a lot of closet space. Where am I storing all of my paint? What are my policies and procedures for lesson plans? When do they need to be done? Are they online? Are they by paper? Are they a mix of them? Are they on apps? Are they on the iPad? How do I let them, how do they do lesson planning? And how do I take a look at it in advance of the next week or the next month or however we do it? And then they're going to need money as well. And it's always a push and pull. We would love to have the most amazing supplies all the time for everybody, but there is always a finite amount of money. And then typically we rob from this area in order to pay staff or health insurance or keep the lights on, stuff like that. And it's probably not fair and it can feel really unfair when you're a staff member. But I know that most directors are wanting to funnel money towards supplies and the things that they know their staff members. Then making sure that lesson planning supports curriculum development throughout the entire year. So curriculum implementation, has it already been chosen? Maybe, maybe not. Do you have flexibility in how it's implemented, even if it's already chosen to? How are you going to give your teachers time to lesson plan weekly? Most programs that I'm familiar with or I've worked in have done it weekly. I know that some programs do it monthly as well. Some are more emergent, but you typically have a sketch of the next week. Because even if you're project-based, you are still going to, need to give people a heads up. So maybe the children are showing an interest in community helpers. You're still going to have an idea of what the next week or month is going to go in, and because you're going to have to call the firefighter and have them come in, or you're going to need to bring materials or source books from the library, something like that. So even if you're project-based, you need to have some kind of lesson planning or ability to communicate what your curriculum is or what you're going to do with the children. Even if you're emergent and project-based, you need to communicate that to your director as the teacher in that classroom, and you also need to communicate that really well to the parents. Then another thing to think about when you're looking at curriculum implementation in your programs, is it top down? So the director decides and everybody gets in line. Does it come from the bottom up? The teachers are funneling their ideas up to management, and management is supporting it. Is it collaborative, where we're all getting together and talking monthly, weekly, something like that, working together? So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, and it really kind of fits in with your leadership style. If you're a pace setter, it's probably going to be a little bit top down. So you're going to make a lot of decisions. Your staff might have a lot of freedom and flexibility, but kind of the ultimate decision comes typically from a pace setting director. If you're more coaching, it's typically more collaborative if you're really into speaking with people. And then supplies and materials. How do we source them if we can't buy them in order to support the families and the children? So how do we communicate our choice of curriculum, lesson planning, and how we're teaching the children to our families, and then also within marketing? So in your parent manual, you're definitely going to have a short description of your curriculum. It's typically on your website or your Facebook page as well. It's typically a very short description, like a sentence or a phrase, just something that really connects people to how you're teaching children. So, you know, we're a Montessori program, who, ... That's going to link up. People are like, oh, I know Montessori, or I know project, or I know emergent, or I know academic, school age, you know, that type of stuff. Those types of words will let parents know when they're going through, what kind of program you are. It's also going to let prospective employees know as well. You typically know the programs. I mean, sometimes you just need a job, but a lot of times you're looking for a program that aligns with your personal values as a teacher, and that will let your prospective employees know as well. So really in this week, I want you to think about being clear, being concise, and being effective when you're going to communicate how you believe children learn. So ask yourself a few questions in the weekly assignment this week, which is our curriculum activity. How do children learn? That's your first question to kind of ask yourself, brainstorm. What type of curriculum will be used in your program? And how will children's learning be evaluated? So kind of think about that, percolate with that. For a couple of days, think about what your true thoughts are about children. Once again, if you're working currently in a program that already has curriculum chosen, you do have some implementation choice. You do have some control over the implementation. So this might be communicated to you, but it's not going to hurt you. It's probably going to add to you as a leader if you can really start to identify, how do children learn? What type of curriculum will be used in your program, and how will children's learning be evaluated? Those are the things that you're going to talk about, then you're going to write about. I don't want this to be super, super long. It's going to be something that will be in a parent manual and an employee handbook, and then parts of it can be taken from marketing materials. So it's not going to be pages and pages on curriculum. This isn't a term paper on curriculum choice. This is communicating this to other people about how you think children learn. All right, I'm going to source a really old book, and I hope that a lot of you are right there with me and you love A Child Goes Forth. I think the copy that I have is from 1989. And I bought it in the late 90s, but it's one of my favorite books. I think it's a classic when it comes to how children learn. And in this, Barbara Taylor says, a child goes forth from a young age, and individuals in their environment can be positive, negative, or non-influential. So as the administration, as the professional, as the leader in our program, we're going to strive to be positive and influential in their learning. Obviously, we don't want to be negative. That would be terrible, and that's nothing that I would ever want a teacher to be part of, and they never would. And you wouldn't even want to be like passive or non-influential or just kind of not there. You always probably, and every teacher I've ever hired or really interviewed for has always wanted to be a positive force. So how are you going to allow your teachers to be positive? as an administrator, as a leader, as a program as a whole. That's really kind of the idea that we're getting at in this class as a whole, and then in these lectures that we'll be watching together, or I'll be recording and you'll be watching. All right, thanks. There's one more video.